Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 5, Return of the Mack. It starts in 1895 London, where a woman's being chased through an alleyway. Who thinks someone's trying to hurt her or kill her, but it turns out it's just Rip Hunter, and they stumble upon a body that has two guys' neck. They think it was the work of a vampire, and um, after Zari gets pissed when the team tells her that they can't use the Wave Rider to travel back in time to save her family because they don't want to risk, you know, affecting the screwing up the timeline any further. Even though I don't know, I thought they were kind of like open. I figured they were more open to fixing it just because it's like they knew Argus like took over. Um, it was like they made metahumans were outlawed there, and so it's just kind of weird that they try to. I don't know. I guess they just don't want to risk like bring anybody back from the dead just because they don't want to do what Barry did with Flashpoint or just screwing up the timeline any further. But then Nate says that he notices a pattern in the anachronisms throughout time, except for two time periods: 2042, which is where Episode 3 took place, and also the second place was like 1895 London, in which they traveled to, in which there have been reports of people being bit by vampires and killed. And you have like Mick, who's so funny. Like you see like he's already reading like Dracula, and he said he's been carrying around a stake his entire life, waiting to hunt down a vampire. So they and I think it's kind of funny how when the Legends goes dressed as cops is that they have Nate and Jack's putting on horrible British accents, and then Sarah just says like, "Oh, I'm just with NYPD." Like she's like, "I'm not even gonna try to like put on like a bad accent." And when they're examining the body, they hear like the song "Return of the Mac," and you think it's like Sarah's like, "Okay, who brought their cell phone?" And which wouldn't work. They don't have satellites in 1895. But anyway, Ray Palmer immediately realizes that the coroner has a smartwatch from 2016, and they think, oh, maybe he's a member of the Time Bureau. So when they try to interrogate him, he said he just snatched it off another body that he was examining, and the Legends go to the graveyard that the coroner tells them about. The body had already been dug up. But crawling out of the grave, they find Rip Hunter, who basically comes groveling back to the Legends, saying that they need his help in order to track down Mullis, the big bad for the season, because the Time Bureau hasn't necessarily like completely sanctioned it, necessarily like sanctioned his actions, and they don't even know that he's even in 1895. So the Legends were they're still the. I mean, the Legends are still holding a grudge against him for basically trying to like cast them aside, but they agreed to help him in exchange for having the Time Bureau stop chasing them. And they're trying to figure out. They try to use um, Nate Hayward as bait to lure out the quote unquote vampire, but then he gets distracted when he runs into Sir Henry Stein, Martin's distant relative, and he gets chloroformed and locked in this lab where I guess like this doctor is like has these like two-pronged syringe to take blood from him. And when the other Legends are able to find him, they run into a woman who's doing a seance and says that she can communicate with the dead. And Zarya gets intrigued and wants to know if she can communicate with her dead brother. And the woman gets possessed, and apparently, I guess like it seems like Zarya's brother is talking through this woman and saying, "It's like, how can you leave me to die at the hands of Argus agents?" And that's when, and it later leads to an argument once they make it back to the ship about how with Amaya about how she was scared when they were on the run from Argus agents and felt that she has survivor's guilt. She feels bad that she left her brother to die in 2041, and so that's why the whole seance kind of unnerves her. But They don't even explain like who the woman is, but you have to like read reports from like Mark Guggenheim, the press junkets, that this is actually Eleanor. Her name, she's known as like Madame Eleanor, who is actually Damien Dark's daughter, and he's actually and when Jackson and Nate are looking at the fingerprints on the smartwatch, they have to contact Curtis because one of the fingerprints that's on the watch is from Oliver Queen. And just before Curtis reveals the name of the fingerprints of who the watch belongs to, Sarah, of course, opens up the casket to find Damien Dark's corpse, which they said like got time displaced because the coroner said the body had like dropped from the sky, and apparently Eleanor or Nora, who's like an adult now, probably presumably from a further place in the timeline, was recruited to become a follower to the cult of Mullis and is now doing like a ritual to resurrect her father. And because and she may have been the same person who resurrected Kawasa like 2 episodes ago, because it seems like the ritual seems to be similar, where it's like Kawasa is able to function without her water totem because she was resurrected in a body of water, and so because Damien Dark in season 4 of Arrow needed blood to power his idol, that they had to use a blood ritual to bring him back, and also have like wear like a blood moon, like have the moon turn blood red, and basically Rip wants the ceremony to take place just for the sake of using that as a way. They think Mullis will show up, it'll like draw him out. Sarah, of course, and the rest of the team are completely against it, especially Sarah, just because of course Damien Dark killed Laurel, and the fact that he's also, if you watch Arrow season 4, as painful as that was to watch, like you know how powerful he is with his, or even like the second to last episode of Legends of Tomorrow, you know how dangerous he can be with his telekinetic powers and his life draining abilities. But the thing is that Rip goes behind the team's back, in which he uses a code to have Gideon put the whole ship on lockdown, trap them in the ship, that Sarah has to use like missiles in order to help them create an exit for them to get off the ship. And Zari had already left prior to it, trying to be saying that she doesn't want the totem anymore, and she still wants to communicate with her dead brother. She goes back to Eleanor or Nora, and not realizing who she really is, she dupes Zari into like giving up her totem, and then she basically uses it against her and the other legends. And because of Rip's plan, like he tries to show up with other Time Bureau agents to stop the ritual, but Mullis doesn't show up in person. She just possesses Nora in the same way that Savitar possessed Alchemy or Julian Albert in Flash season 3, just to taunt Rip, and they complete the ceremony, and Damien Dark rises from, comes back to life in a very like Count Dracula kind of Frankenstein-esque kind of moment. And the funny thing is that he's like his biggest concern after being resurrected and being surrounded by Time Bureau agents is wondering what happened to his watch. And the next scene has him just like casually murdering all the agents with his powers while Return of the Mack is playing in the background, and while just drinking a brandy. But Rip tries to use a device to momentarily freeze time, but Damien Dark's too powerful, and in spite of him being mind wiped at the end of season 2 by Sarah, the rituals supposedly, presumably restore his memories of his time with the Legion of Doom. So he has those memories, as well as the memories that he went through in season 4 of Arrow, which is why he tries to kill Rip with his life draining abilities and tells him that he remembers everything. And he naturally overpowers the legends, but Zari is able to like get the totem back from Nora, because like the totem like draws itself back to Zari, and Nora uses that same like stone that allowed Kawasa the time hop to convince her dad to they need to retreat. And Sarah is just so pissed off at Rip for and calls him out saying like you turned your back on like every organization you ever worked with, that I don't know how I could have ever trusted you. And it turns out that she was so fed up with with the betrayal that he's and his lot and being duplicitous, that she decided to call the Time Bureau on him and turn him over, where he's supposed to go in front of a tribunal in exchange for Agent Sharp agreeing to call off the hunt for the legends, allow them to time travel freely, in spite of his actions being in spite of him being right about Mullis, and the fact that Rip got a lot of agents killed, which Sarah calls him out on it, and Rip doesn't seem to really care. But as Rip's being taken away, he still says that Sarah needs to be prepared for when they go up against him. And Stein, of course, finds out about Ray and Jax trying to sever the psychic connection, especially since Ray had given Jax a serum, which caused him like short-term memory loss, and it did temporarily sever the psychic connection. But because of those side effects, Jax stopped using the serum, and after Stein was mad about being lied to about the whole thing, that Stein agrees to help them go through the separation. Anyway, but overall, I just thought this was a really solid episode. Like, I feel like the plot's really starting to like pick up, and I think this was at this point, and I think this is probably my favorite episode of Legends so far this season. And I've never been happier to have. I love Neil McDonough as Damien Dark. He just plays this role of the Hills. I'm looking forward to see what kind of role he has. What he's going to be. To see more of him. He fits very well into the show, better than he did on Arrow. I just look forward to seeing more of Mullis. Like, he's going to be somebody we know, like Savitar was supposed to be, I just kind of want to see how the plot progresses and thickens, basically. So, what do you guys think of the episode? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.